Van, great to see you today.
Good to see you.
Like I say, for what it's worth, I love your new record. It really does feel like it's up there with the very best of things that you've done. It feels like a very special record. It feels like, obviously, because it's all new material, it feels like a classic Van Morrison record. But it also sounds very contemporary. Can you explain your thought processes behind the creation of Remembering Now?
Well, it really isn't a thought process. It's more like, I mean, for want of a better word, it's more like a psychic process, or the other side of the brain process.
Mm-hmm.
The thought process comes in putting it together later on, really. In the beginning, it's just instinct, intuition, sometimes randomness. It's not really a thought process. It's more like being a receiver.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like one is a receiver and you're receiving info and ideas and concepts.
And I suppose that the thing that makes this very particular is for the last couple of years you've been making records which perhaps celebrate the past, maybe genre records, but because of this is all new material, apart from Down to Joy, that's what makes it special, I think. So why did you want to do an album of new material now?
Well, it was going on parallel.
Okay.
I mean, the recording process is not completely, exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
It's the songs are running parallel to the other projects, and a lot of them recorded during the same time period. The other projects, the last two projects I put out, it wasn't a matter of the past. It was a matter of like my nostalgia, because people have their own nostalgia, and
sure.
So do I. So it was basically going back to what, and then in the beginning, what kind of gave me the impulse to do this. What was the inspiration behind me actually thinking I could actually do it? So that's where I was going back to. Yeah, this is why I get into it, because I was getting quite a lot of like negative feedback during this period. So I just wanted to do something, and the musicians, we all wanted to do something that was going to be fun.
Yeah.
And, we weren't trying to make any statement. And,
sure.
We were just going to have fun and go back to the beginning and say, yeah, this is why we got into this in the beginning, But the other songs were being written and recorded during the same period.
Got you. There are 14 great songs on the album. It's very varied. What's your favorite?
On the album?
Yeah.
Well, I don't really have a favorite. I guess the Stretchy Night would probably be the favorite at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, that's mine. To me, it's because it sounds like Veed & Fleece. It sounds like pure Van. It's such a great song. Such a great song.
Okay.
But Down to Joy, another great record, which was obviously first heard in Kenneth Branagh's Belfast from 2021. Yeah. Was it always your intention to put it on an album?
And, of course.
But why this one and why now?
Well, because it's more complicated than that. See, there's a backlog of material.
Mm-hmm.
It's finding a way to get the material out, because you can really only, the distribution can only deal with so much at a time. It's difficult. It'd be difficult, say, to get out two records a year. That would be really difficult. One is manageable.
Mm-hmm.
So there being a backlog, and the new arrangements projects been just sitting there for years. It's been just gathering dust. So that was supposed to come out a long time ago. So it's just really priorities and the timing.
Sure.
Because we were involved in skiffle and rock and roll, and we wanted to put that out at the time. So it's complicated.
Sure. Talking about that particular song, which is a great song, how did that work? Did you get to watch the film before writing it? Did you speak to Kenneth about? I mean, How did it work?
What's the first draft of the film?
Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as we did like during lockdown. I did an interview, when it was up for I think it was a Grammy or something. Did an interview with Nile Rodgers and Paul Williams, two songwriters, and that was one of these virtual Zoom things.
Sure.
Anyway, so I was explaining to Nile Rodgers that Kenneth came from North Belfast. So what I did was I drove over there, and I remembered I used to visit in the 60s. I had friends over there in that area. I used to visit them, and we played music together. And I just had a vision of walking down this road in North Belfast. And that's how the song started, Coming Down to Joy. I had this image of these young guys, and they were coming down the street, having fun, laughing. So that's kind of how it started.
What's the process of making a record? Is it always the same when you're recording original material, your own material? Is it always finished by the time you get into the studio? How does it work?
No, it's not always finished. It's a work in progress up until you get the right take or the right arrangement, and it can change and evolve. Basically, the song basically stays the same, but the arrangements can change. So what happens is I do a demo with myself, mainly on guitar. A couple of them were on piano. So I do a demo of the song, the initial song. Then I go in the studio, usually start with the drummer, and I play the drummer the song. And then I run the song with guitar and drums initially. Find out what tempo I want, what beat I want, what approach I want. Run the song with the drummer, and then I bring the bass player in. Then we run the song with the bass and drums and myself, and we get the bass part together. Then we usually bring in keyboard at that time. Again, figure out what he's going to play. Then bring the guitar in, and then once everybody has learned the song, then we're ready to do a take.
Right. Fascinating. That I talked to Jimmy Page last summer about something, and he said that when he was recording, the drums would always be the first thing they'd work with. Yeah, fascinating. Where do you like to record these days?
It doesn't matter. This engineer is really good, and he can record anywhere. Most of the rhythm section was in Cardiff, so initially we were recording in Cardiff because they were there. So it was like two keyboards, bass and drums were there. And so I just had to bring in a guitar player. He was from Limerick.
Right. And
myself. So that's basically, it was basically based in Cardiff.
Okay.
And then sometimes we recorded in Bath, either at Real World or at a hotel there.
Okay. Do you like recording in America?
Well, it depends. I mean, I like like Sausalito Studio D in Sausalito.
Right.
Which I did a lot of stuff there at the record plant. That's I think that's gone now. I'm not sure. But I don't really have any. It's not really about the place, because in America I use some different musicians that I work with there. Just mix it up a bit,
Sure. And could you tell me why you wanted to work with Don Black again, and why you chose to collaborate with him?
Well, Don Black is a bit of a wild card because I didn't really choose. I wasn't looking for anybody to co-write with or anything like this. I used to listen to he had a radio program every Sunday on Radio 2 about songwriting. And he went into depth about songwriters. And I thought, well, this is great because nobody else is doing this. And I listened to his program. And then I was at the BMI Awards. There were 4 of us that were up for an Icon Award, BMI Icon Award. It was Nile Rodgers, Ray Davies, Don Black, and myself. And oh no, it was Tim Rice as well.
Right.
So there's 5. And so I met Don there. Meanwhile, after meeting Don at the BMI Awards, I was sent the CD. A friend sent the CD, and it was a compilation, and there was a song on it. I mean, you didn't know, but there was a song on Days Like These, and I heard this song, and I thought this is very liminal, because this song could be in between 2 songs I wrote, like Days Like This, and These Are the Days. It sounded like the missing song between these 2 songs. So I thought, well, I could have written this song easily. So I met Don Black for lunch one day, and I just said, if you have anything like that might suit me lyric wise, just send it. So he sent a river. What it called? Every time I see a river, he sent these lyrics every time I see a river. So I put music to it. Went in the studio and recorded it, and it really worked. So he just keeps sending me lyrics, and most of the time it works.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't really a choice. It was something that just happened. Really, the universe kind of happened it. Really
nice relationship,
and it works.
Yeah.
So just if it works, keep doing it. Kind of thing.
For sure. Similarly, could you tell me why you wanted to collaborate with Michael Beckwith, is the founder, obviously, and spiritual director of the Agape Center?
Well, we've been talking for years about writing a song, and every time we'd meet up, we say like, "Yeah, we're going to write a song together," and so we never just got around to it. So I just ended up taking the words from one of his books.
Okay.
And just putting music to the words from the book, and. I sent it to him. He said, "Yeah, this is good." So, it worked.
So when you're doing those collaborations, you're not actually working together. You're working with.
No, they just send me
right.
Just like Don just sends me lyrics, and then I do the rest. He doesn't write music.
And can you just say what first attracted you to the Agape organization?
Oh yeah, that's another story too. I was going through my library, and I rediscovered this book from the 70s I had. It's called Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes, Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes.
Mm-hmm.
And I was into this years ago, and I decided I want to get into this again. And so I looked up if there was a Science of Mind organization near me. Here there wasn't. There's one in Bournemouth or something. And then when I was looking it up, I came across an interview with Michael Beckwith, and I thought this is really good, and so I did further research and discovered Agape. Then a couple of months later, I was at Roma Downey's house in Malibu, and there was about 20 people there. We were sitting outside, and I just heard somebody mention Agape. So I asked Roma, I said, "Somebody just mentioned Agape there. Do you know anything about this?" And she said, "Yeah." She said, I know about Agape, I said, "Well, maybe you could, introduce me to Michael Beckwith." And so she set it up, and I met him, and then I went to the place, and kept going. And it just went on from there.
There's obviously such a strong sense of, for want of a better word, spirituality about this record, as there always seems to be in your work. Often, perhaps not always, but often. How have your personal beliefs changed over the years?
Well, it's not a belief. It's not a belief. It's it's an energy.
Right.
It's an energy and a frequency. So that's the way I see it. Is if it's a frequency.
And is that frequency a creative frequency?
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
And you feel that you're channeling that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And do you have to wait for that, or can you summon it?
No, sometimes you wait, and sometimes most of the time you have to summon it. Most of the time. What I find that with a lot of people, it's the opposite. They meditate and they do it that way.
Sure.
I have to actually summon it. Yeah. most of the time.
And how, and as a creative person, what's that relationship like? Because you've been doing it for quite some time. Does that make the process shorter or not? I don't, because I find that really interesting.
Well, it depends on the individual. I mean,
Right.
The thing is that I had to work my way through all this, and you had to deal with the energy. So it started out a long time ago, say like in the 70s, where, I mean, I had to like deal with this energy because it was burning me out. And people around me were burning out. Musicians around me were burning out on drugs. One of them almost died. So there was this. I just like. I didn't know how to deal with this energy. So I was given this book by Carl Jung. I think it was called "Man and the Symbols." Was the book.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking through this book, and then I started to discover what this was all about, which I didn't, understand before. Which is it's about projection. Whenever you're famous, people constantly project. I mean, we do this all the time, whether we're famous or not. But with famous people are always projecting on one all the time. It's just constant projection. So like. This can either, like destroy you if you don't know what's happening, or you can work your way through it. So I basically had to work my way through it, and then learn how to deal with this energy and like all the negative stuff that comes towards one when people are projecting on you, and the media is constantly projecting on, the negative stuff. That's what they think sells, so that's what they promote.
Sure.
So there's what I call is this third party thing is created. There's you and there's the audience, which is a direct two-way street. And then there's something that's third party, which is being created from the beginning. Once you stick your head above the parapet by the media, creates this third thing.
For sure.
And so people start relating to the third party thing and not you, which is what the problem is. So anyway, that's when it took a long time for me to deal with a lot of this stuff and come out the other end of it, and deal with the energy.
But where you're different, and in perhaps in the same way that it's different for Bob Dylan, is that most of those famous people, they have an imperial period, and whether it's 7 years or 9 years or whatever, where they're making tremendous music and they're being incredibly creative, and then they don't. And you have this, I don't know if it's innate ability to be making records now that are as good as the records you made 50, 60 years ago. You must be aware of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's basically, I'm coming from, I think what it is I'm coming from a place of jazz, rather than pop or rock, or rather than what's commercial and what's on the charts. And it's just that was where I was coming from in the beginning. So that's really still where I'm at. I mean, I feel the same as I did when I was, listening to Louis Armstrong and Lead Belly and the Jelly Roll Morton and these people and the blues, and then you had the skiffle thing, which was a byproduct of that, which was a British thing with Ken Collier, Chris Barber, Lonnie Donegan, and these people. So basically, it's a jazz approach rather than, I'm trying to be popular for this length of time, or
For sure.
The system's going to manipulate me for this period or something, but they think that's the best frame for it. You know what I mean? So I think it's a combination of all that, and I think if you're anti-system to start with, then it's fairly impossible to get sucked in
Right.
to that program.
For sure.
That program.
Yeah. You have this ability to keep moving forward musically, and yet always making records that are quintessentially Van Morrison. How good an editor are you?
My songs and product, good, very good, very good. Well, that's the thought process. Then that's when that comes in. Yeah.
You must have, I would imagine, you have a vast amount of material that you've recorded but haven't released.
That's right. Yeah, it's just massive. Yeah.
Out of interest, I mean, you've done a few things, but there hasn't. Take again, Bob Dylan, who has a kind of parallel career of putting out lots of material that wasn't released at the time, and many people think it's better. But for all the people watching this, would there be a point where you might start releasing that kind of stuff?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just I don't have a system together to do it yet.
Sure.
And there's a lot of people. Everybody talks about this, but well, are you going to put your money where your mouth is? How to get this out?
Yeah.
So far, nobody's coming up with a plan.
Right.
But it's just too huge is the problem.
For sure.
There's like so much good stuff, and like I say, standard just distribution, they can only deal with like one a year, and that's realistic.
Yeah,
that's totally realistic. So I don't have another outlet, but I think that maybe some people have had an outlet for quite a while, but I don't have a team. I really need a team of people to do it, and we don't have a team that's going to figure this out.
For sure. With Remembering Now, there's elements where there's a big emphasis on string arrangements, and you've obviously used strings throughout your career, but they seem particularly pronounced on this record. Was there a decision to do that, or did the songs just need that?
Well, it was I just wanted to work with the arranger. I hadn't worked with him in a while, and it was just like, why don't I just get in touch with him and send him some of the songs, and we'll see where we go from there. But it was I just wanted to work with Fikra Trench again, because I'd lost contact, so I just wanted to reconnect again. And he's very good, and he knows. We work together quite a bit, so don't have to explain.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, they work beautifully on the record.
Yeah.
Almost from your first records, you have referenced your childhood, your adolescence, and the incredibly important that place plays in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same on this album. And so how has your relationship with Belfast changed over the years?
Well, everybody's has changed, even the people that stayed here and didn't go anywhere. I mean, people that have been here and haven't gone anywhere else or moved anywhere else, it's changed. The sense of place, I actually made a documentary in the 80s. I think it might have even been called that, but this goes back to Davy Hammond. I did a short documentary, I think it was for RTE or somebody. But there was like poets. There was Michael Longley, Gerald Daw, Seamus Dean, and Derek Mann. It was like 4 Irish poets. That's basically what it was about, a sense of place. Davy Hammond, going back to, he was one of my English teachers. He was also a folk singer. He was a broadcaster, and he was a documentary filmmaker. And so that he, I think he maybe I coined that phrase or was one of the first people to use that sense of place. So it came out of that.
Mm.
That's about And this documentary I made, it was obviously subject matter of going into remembering now. It's also about the landscape, the place. I mean, see, that's when I connected with Kenneth Branagh when we were first starting this. He was telling me about the project. I mean, he was telling me about really connecting with this place. It's physical. It's the earth. It's the landscape. It's the whole thing. Is what we're connecting with. It's not just the city and all that.
Sure.
It's just we're connecting with the whole thing.
The album itself does seem to have a strong theme around Belfast. At least it does listening to it. Was that always the intention?
Well, it's just the way the songs came about.
Right.
Really. And, basically part of me's never really left the street corner. I mean, part of me's still the guy hanging out in the street corner. And I see some of these guys occasionally that used to hang out on the corner. So part of me's still there,
Well, it sounds like it. I mean, many artists deny their roots, and yet you seem obsessed with them, and that's kind of fascinating.
Well, yeah, because this is where it all started, It kind of all started here. This is, spiritual, if you want to call it that. Yeah.
If it wasn't for Ray, obviously it reinforces your love and respect for Ray Charles.
Yeah.
And unlike many artists, you often reference your influences, which I think is a very nice thing to do, a very passionate thing to do. But why does he remain so important in your life?
Well, I mean, I was sent through a question like, what? How do you keep going? And what inspires you? Well, basically, Ray has inspired me from like when I was 15, or maybe before that, when I first heard it. So all through. I mean, I bought all his records, the ones that nobody's heard of. He put one out every year. I mean, in the movie only goes up to a certain time period. I think in the 60s, but he was still putting great stuff out every year. Ray put an album out. I got it. I listened to it. I absorbed everything he did. Same thing with like Mose Allison. Mose Allison his great work was later on. His best songs were written later, but nobody really heard them. They weren't promoted.
Mm-hmm.
So Ray was just a constant inspiration through all of it. All of it, because he did everything. He could do everything, and he did everything. He didn't stick. There wasn't like one genre, or I mean, he could do a song that you didn't really expect, and change it, and it became his song. So it was just genius material. So it wasn't just in the beginning. It was like, he still inspires me. I mean, Ray.
When did you first meet him?
I first met him at the festival. No, what is it? Yeah, Festival Hall.
In London.
He's doing a concert. Yeah. And I just recorded one of his songs on an album. I put it out. What would I do without you to see me through? And I met him like after the show, and we just had just a bit of a chat, and then I met him over a couple of years, several years later. We played a gig in Cork. Vince Parr put on a gig in Cork, and he was on that. And then I'd seen a lot of gigs, and then I did a tour with him, UK. But I've seen a lot. I saw a lot of his gigs when I was living in the States, so I saw him all the time. I saw him at big gigs. I saw him in clubs.
Did you have any apprehension about meeting him? Never meet your heroes, etc.
No, not at all. No.
And you obviously clicked.
Yeah. Well, I mean, probably could have done more, but he just wanted to do. At one point, he wanted to do everything at his studio in LA. And he invited me there. Just a regret I didn't make it at that time, or it was an open invitation, but I was very busy and I didn't get the time for him.
And James Brown continues to be a huge influence, doesn't he?
Yeah. Dynamics. dynamics. Yeah.
You talk about your relationship with James Brown, the first records you heard of James Brown's.
Well, it wasn't the first ones. That was basically it was Volume 2.
Right.
Because I'd heard Live at the Apollo Volume 1, but
Yeah.
it was really a bad recording.
Right.
Couldn't hear what was going on
Sure.
properly. So it was basically Volume 2. And then I saw this. I was in Boston at the time. Martin Luther King was shot in Boston, and I turned on the TV. I mean, he wasn't shot in Boston, but it was on. James Brown was doing a gig in Boston,
Mm-hmm.
and it was on TV. And I actually saw that gig live on TV at the time. And I thought, oh, wow, this is something else. This is like taking it to a whole other level. Basically, just got into like Volume 2. I mean, I had a drummer like later here. He was living here, Dave Early. He used to call Volume 2 the Bible. Yeah.
On the new record, When the Rains Came, obviously echoes a lyric from Brown Eyed Girl. Why?
It doesn't. That was one of those trick questions I wasn't ready for. I hadn't got any questions up front, so that whole interview I was like dancing on my feet because
Right.
I was like one question after another, and I don't have total recall of 60 years worth of stuff. So when he said that, I had like an inkling that there was there's some connection. So the connection is actually it isn't relatable to Brown Eyed Girl at all.
Okay.
This line is relatable, but not directly.
Sure.
The Brown Eyed Girl is like, hey, where did we go?
Right.
There's When the Rains Came. And the other song is When the Rains Came. One is about people, and the other one's about the weather. They're totally not related at all. But the line is, now deceptive.
You've got a good run of gigs coming up. Do you already know which tracks from the new album you'll be performing?
No, not yet, because it's not out yet. There's no point in. I mean, I've been doing like Down to Joy in the set for a couple of years.
Sure.
Now, but it's not released yet, so there's no point because people they won't know what we're doing.
No, but
so closer to the time.
Do you always know which ones you will be performing, and there's some that you very much won't attempt, or will you be doing all of them?
Know.
Okay.
Don't always know. Depends whether like what the instrumentation is going to be. If, for instance, if we're going to be having like gig, like say we're doing a gig with strings on it, then you just pick the obvious ones with strings, or it's down to what type of gig it's going to be.
For sure. There's a lot of excitement about the British Summertime gig with you and Cat Stevens and Neil Young. That seems like it's going to be a blockbuster.
Well, I'm glad Cat Stevens is back in the picture.
Yeah.
I think he dropped out and then he came back. I knew Cat Stevens when he wasn't Cat Stevens. When he was Steve.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Fan, can I please take you back to when you were young? And can you describe how you felt, how intoxicated you felt when you first started listening to music?
I can't remember. I was 2 or 3. Because my father used to play records all the time. When he wasn't at work, he was playing recordings. Could have been 2 or 3.
And what were those records? What music was it?
New Orleans jazz. Got a lot of gospel. I mean, I think Mahalia Jackson, I remember. Sister Rosetta Tharpe. Got black gospel music. There's big band music as well. So like Woody Herman and Tommy Dorsey and this kind of stuff too. Bing Crosby. It was mainly Louis Armstrong, and I can't remember exactly, but it was just going on all the time. I don't know what the first. I mean, I just thought this was normal. I met people later on, and we're talking about like Lightning Hopkins or Leadbelly or, these people, they go like, well, yeah, I discovered that later on. I thought, I didn't realize that this was kind of underground.
Yeah.
And
you talk with such affection about people like Jimmy Rogers and Muddy Waters and
Yeah,
Hank Williams,
yeah,
Mahalia
yeah. Well,
Jackson,
that's right.
Led Belly. What emotions did you feel when you first heard those records?
That's a good question, but I don't. I suppose I just connected with it, but I don't know on what level that was. I think I was maybe too young to know. I just knew I connected with it, and it was just overpowering. I mean, it was like, I don't know. Like, that's hard to explain. It's like an existential thing, I suppose. It's more like existential.
But
just like it's just happening. Like this is happening, and it's good. And I felt connected with it. Yeah.
But at what point did you think I can do that?
Well, it wasn't until I was watching this TV program. It was on every night. I don't know, but you probably don't remember this, but people my age would remember it. It was Cliff Mitchellmore had a program.
Yeah.
And he usually had a singer on every night. And so I'd heard the Lead Belly records my father had, and then Rory McEwen was on, used to be on the Cliff Mitchellmore program. And one night he did a Lead Belly song. So I guess that was the first time I thought, yeah, well, you know, this is connect with this. Maybe this is possible. And then Donegan, of course, which was about around the same time that my father actually brought home the 78. It was Lonnie Donegan, Rock Island Line. B-side was John Henry. So I guess that was it. It was like Rory McEwen, combination of Rory and Lonnie Donegan. And that's when I thought, yeah, this is possible. That was, I don't know what age. When did Rock Island Line come out? Whenever that came out.
What is your very favorite record from those days, from that period?
From that period?
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's like Ken Collier, Going Home, where he sings.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you heard that track or not, but it's like about New Orleans. It's about, you know, it's about, he spent time in New Orleans. He jumped ship. I get he just that song reminds me of that period. Yeah.
And when you first formed them, what was your initial ambition?
Well, I'd been in bands before that. You see, when people write me up in the mainstream, they usually think I started then. I started way before
For
then.
sure.
I started like actually before I left school.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I played my first gig in school, and then I was in skiffle groups, rock and roll bands, show bands. So we were in Germany. We were doing like some blues stuff. We were doing a lot of Ray Charles stuff in Germany. I wasn't the main singer. I was mainly playing horn. I was playing saxophone. There was a guy called George Hetherington. He was the singer. And he was really into Ray Charles. So he and I were into Ray Charles in big time. So we were pulling the band in that direction. And so when that finished, it was everybody kind of split up. So on the train on the way back, or coming back, and on the boat train, and one of the guys in the band, and I remember saying that I'm going to start something different when I get back. So anyway, I got back, and then I got a gig in a show band with a friend of mine, Herbie Armstrong. He was on guitar, and another friend, George Sproul. So I was in the Manhattan show band. We did gigs in like Camden Town, the Irish Centre, and all this stuff. And then I was also in another band with Herbie Armstrong, which is a Brian Rossi band, which had a residency at the Mecca Ballroom here on Chichester Street, at the Plaza Ballroom. And so I decided that I wanted. Oh yeah, we're in Camden Town. That's it. That's how it happened. So this guy came up behind the stage. We came off, and he said, "You guys should go and check out Studio 51, the Ken Collier Club. This band is on the Downliner site. You should go and check it out." So Saturday afternoon, we went down there, the Studio 51. And the Downliner sect run. So I was standing there with Herbie. We're standing there. So I'm going, these guys are just playing my record collection. So I think we should do this in Belfast. So that was the beginning of it. And then the other friend, George Sproul, he heard about this venue that might be available. So I started rehearsing with the guy from the band in Germany, the guitarist from the band in Germany, the Monarchs, which is Billy McAllen, the guitar player, Herbie Armstrong, the other guitar player, the bass player from Brian Rossi, and the drummer from this previous show band. And we started rehearsing to go in this club, the Maritime Hotel. So we're about like 2 weeks from opening up the blues club at the Maritime. And he goes like, he got cold feet. They were just, so yeah, we don't think blues are that's not going to make it. It's not going to work. So basically they all kind of jumped ship, left me high and dry. So I'm walking down my street and I met this guy, Jim Tosh, who lived at the bottom of my street, and he was a country and western singer. I said, "What's wrong?" I said, "I've got to go in the club in 2 weeks. I don't have a band. Everybody jumped ship." So he's thinking about it, and he says, "I've got these musicians, but I don't really want them because I'm doing country and western, Jimmy Rogers and Hank Williams stuff, and I don't really want these guys because they want to play Chuck Berry." So I said, "Well, that's close enough." So then, instead of going in the club with my friends who let me down, I go in the club with these other guys, giving them some records to, stuff they should listen to, blues stuff, so eventually get a set together. So after several months, this kind of thing takes off, and then somebody from Decca Records shows up. The original was just to sing blues because I was the only person that can do it. In the previous band, the singer was George Hetherington from Glasgow. I didn't want to be up. I didn't want to be in the up front. I was only doing a couple of songs. I'd rather be in the horn section. I didn't want to be the up front singer. So in this situation, I was like the only one who could do this and knew what the music was and could do the blues. So that's when I became the front man. And, I wanted a group to back me up. That's basically it. But the guys I originally wanted, that didn't work out because they wanted to stay with Brian Rossi and various other people because they were making money. And,
sure.
It was a gamble. So that's what happened. But it was originally just a backing group for me to sing Bo Diddley or Muddy Waters stuff and some of my own stuff. So that was basically it.
Why were them successful?
I've done previous interviews about this. Them didn't actually exist as a group.
Sure.
It became like a name, really. It became successful, I think, because the Ready, Steady, Go played Baby Please Don't Go as a theme tune. Because we were moved to London by the management and we lost the club. I lost the club and Rory Gallagher took my spot. We'd built this thing up, and Rory Gallagher was moved into my spot, but he later was moved out as well. I think because of this record being played on Ready, Steady, Go every week, I think that's how it took off. But it never really became successful in the real sense of the word. The management wasn't really that interested.
Yeah.
And people, it never solidified as a group of people, not like the other groups that were around that time, like the Kinks or the Who, which was the same people all the time. This was it wasn't like a real group. It was people, dropping out. didn't want to move to London. And, you know, there's just various people coming and going. It was never really a solid group of people like these other groups were. So it was basically just ended up being a name. And so this was like, you know, I was getting quite like peeved about this. So I go in and see Phil Solomon, who was the manager, Phil and Dorothy Solomon, Tottenham Court Road. I said, I mean, I don't know how, why don't you just let me out of this? Because this is not working. I don't know who's going to show up. He said, I don't care about these guys. He said, as long as I've got you, I don't care. I don't care who it is. I said, well, I do. Because I don't want to show up at a gig and the guitar player's not there, that somebody else is not there, and like, then what? So he didn't want to let me out of the contract. So in order to get out of the contract, I had to become me, because I was signed as a member of a group.
Sure.
You know. So how they became successful, that was basically it. It was the TV thing. But then there wasn't that much support from the management thing, and the band never solidified as a band, as a unit. So that wasn't really going anywhere, and ended up with the different personnel going to California, and which was probably the best period, was the time that we went and we played the Whiskey A Go-Go, which was myself, the original bass player, Jim Armstrong on guitar, another Armstrong on guitar, Ray Elliott on saxophone and keyboards, and Dave Harvey on drums. That was probably the best period when we were there. Played the Whiskey several times and some other gigs. Then after that, it was like, okay, well, it's happening. Nothing's happening, you know? So, because basically the management basically abandoned it because they had other fish to fry. They had a new kid on the block from here called David McWilliams, and he had a big hit. So basically they, you know, they weren't interested anyway. So I just moved on, and they couldn't hold me to the contract because I was signed as part of a group. So then I got myself into another lot of trouble after that with different people, you know.
But that notwithstanding, it must have been extraordinary to be so successful at such a young age.
Well, it's called a break in reality. You know, 1 minute you're hanging out in the street corner with your mates, and then when you're on TV, here it comes, and then reality changes, but not for you. But people start relating to you differently because they're relating to you on TV. I mean, even people I knew, because I was on TV, they'd look at me like really, you know, strange, like, you know. There was a whole different vibe. And then they assumed that you had lots of money, and you know, we're going to, you know, invite everybody out for drinks, and, you know, basically you were broke because we just got barely enough to exist. Sure. You know, so all this kind of projection was going on. So that's really, you know, you don't change, but it changes. Like the way people perceive you and relate to you changes, even though you don't change. But then you can change over time, depending on whether you have to keep doing this or not. And, you know, for me, I had to keep doing it because I didn't have another job. One thing leads to another, and, you know, a PR, blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, it goes on from there.
When did you start to believe in your abilities as a songwriter?
Well, I mean, I other people believed before me. I mean, the only reason Phil Solomon wanted to keep me was that. He said, you know, I don't care about all of this. Just as long as I have you under contract, I don't care about the rest of it. It was mainly that, he says, because you're a songwriter, and, you know, you don't want to be treading the boards when you're 50, do you? That was his outlook. So then I'd only written half a dozen songs. So, I mean, I guess it didn't really pick up until like I signed with Warner Brothers, and that's what they wanted. They wanted all original material. So that's when it became more pressurized, because that's what the big thing was then. You know, everybody was writing their own songs. Sure. It was a big thing, and then they came out with this term, singer-songwriter, but which I was, you know, because I was a singer first. But they kind of twisted this and then made it like everybody who was a songwriter was a singer-songwriter. Some of them were songwriters who sang. They weren't actually singers.
Yeah.
They were songwriters, and then the record company would like push them into, well, you have to sing your own songs, you know? So there was this, you know, the way they reverse everything? That was going on. So,
when did you start to hit the heights of your ambition creatively?
Wasn't ambition.
But you wanted to be
It
successful.
wasn't nothing to do with ambition. It was survival. It had nothing to do with ambition. I had to work my way through hell to get to the point where I could actually make any money. Because after Phil Solomon's debacle, I signed with Bert Burns, and they were basically in bed together, which I didn't know until I discovered it when I got to New York. And Bert Burns left a contract on the table, and somebody let me in his office. So go and sit there and wait, he's coming in. So I was sitting in his chair, and there was this thing. I'm like, Bert Burns and Phil Solomon are in bed together. So basically, it was more the same thing.
For sure.
And then I got shafted in that. I had to dig my way out of that. Then there's a guy called Andy Wickham, who was this English guy who was working for Warner Brothers. And he basically was the person to get me out of the band contract and get me signed to Warner Brothers. But the problem was I was signed to this production company. So I couldn't directly sign because it was all very complicated. So, I mean, Andy Wickham wanted to sign me to Warner Brothers. Eventually I did, but it was still a bad deal because I was going through these other couple of gangsters. Well, they weren't really gangsters that compared to the other operation, but they were, they were pretty shitty. So they basically just give everything away to Warner Brothers, to the extent that Warner Brothers still owns the first 3 albums, because they give everything away for a couple of grand. So I had to work my way through all this before I even got to the point where I was making anything. So that was like, we're talking about well into the 70s. And then I had to fight my way out of being an artist into being a producer. Because the artist always is, being manipulated.
Sure.
Like when we talked at the beginning of this interview, we mentioned people that were manipulated as an artist, and probably still are today. Whereas I didn't want that, so I wanted to be in control of what I did myself. So I had to fight my way through that, gradually become my own producer, and then that was really like well into the 70s before that happened.
In those early days, how did you develop as a musician, and was your songwriting dependent on your abilities?
No, the
as a
songwriting
musician?
was basically survival, because what was in the air then was like, the competitiveness of writing songs and being a singer-songwriter. That was a competitive situation, So there was loads of them, there was hundreds of singer-songwriters vying for, putting an album out. And so Warner Brothers, that's what the modus operandi was. So it was basically, you were just making records and doing this for survival, because you were just, you didn't have the money. You didn't have some of these people did because they had a manager that got the money, and I didn't, So it depended on your situation. But it wasn't about ambition. It was about survival. It was about paying the bills. At that point, I had a daughter by then. I was supporting people. It was just survival. Nothing to do with ambition.
Where did your belief in your talent come from?
I don't know. I don't know if that's belief. I don't know. I don't know if it's belief.
But you must have had belief. Surely.
Well, it was still survival. I believed I could sing, but because from when I first heard, like, singers. I thought, yeah, well, I mean, I could do this.
Well, what's the
But
first song?
I didn't start just being a great singer. I mean, this was a progressive thing.
Yeah.
That happens over a long period of time, and you have to work at it. So it's just basic survival. If the belief was there, it was probably subconscious. It was a subconscious belief. I just knew I could do it. I said, well, then I knew I could do the blues. I don't know if that was a belief. When I knew I could sing the blues in my sleep, that's why I started the club, because I can do this in my sleep. But I don't know if that's a belief or just something you know. Some sort of knowledge.
What do you think that you had that a lot of your contemporaries perhaps didn't have? The people who didn't make it?
No idea. I mean, maybe they didn't have the series of events. Like, I had a series of events that were happening to me where I didn't have any control at all. I had no control. I ended up sleeping on somebody's couch in Boston. I had no control. It was like pillar to post. And I had to go through all this stuff in order just to survive and just get enough money to survive. So a lot of them maybe didn't go through that.
Yeah.
That's all I can come up with.
Yeah, makes sense. We've talked about Astral Weeks before. You've discussed it with many people. But how soon after you recorded it did you realize that it was special?
Well, I think right away, because, these incredible musicians that, I mean, and Louis Bernstein, who put it together. I mean, there's one guy who actually did something, so he put it together, and he just said, "This is it, man," and we both knew, because the way it just came together, and these incredible musicians who could read the situation and read the material, and it just had to be. It was just there. But it didn't initially. It was over a long period of time. I mean, I remember being in London when Derek Taylor had just come back from LA. He was in the London office, and he said, can you give us another Astral Weeks? I don't know, but he said that well, it's only done 30,000. So I mean, even at that point, which was in the 70s, we're talking about, later in the 70s, it hadn't really done that much as far as people buying it. But it was acclaimed, more critically acclaimed than it was in the charts. You know what I mean? It wasn't really in the charts, or it didn't sell very much. But the critics liked it, and they give it lots of good write-ups.
They didn't just like it. By the time I started, investigating that kind of music when I was a teenager in the early 70s, it was already acknowledged as being another level above most records. It was acclaimed by 73, 74 as something very particular, something very, very special. And you must have known that. I mean, how did that make you feel? Did it go to your head?
No, it didn't go. It didn't go to my head. It just I was we were looking at. Well, I was looking at what I could do creatively.
Yeah.
But then here's where the catch. There's always a catch, and the catch was that Warner Brothers didn't want to put up any money,
right,
to do this live.
Yeah.
So basically it was best kept secret at Warner Brothers.
Sure. And
so what I wanted to do with it creatively never happened. It probably would have been gotten out much more if I had to we'd be able to do it live with those musicians and the strings and all that. But they just didn't care. And that's what happened.
You constantly pay homage to the original masters of R&B, jazz, country, blues music, but often, and this might be a misguided impression, but you often give the impression, I think, of being less interested in your own earlier work. Is that fair?
Oh yeah, but it's not necessarily because of the work. It's because of the projection on it.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's the projection on it. It's not the work. It's like, how it's creating this, but it's the mythology bit that bothered it's just the mythology. Because it's just the work. The work is no, I don't have a problem with the work.
Sure.
But it's like, it's taking you into the mythology of like, okay, where I was when I wrote that, it was like I was picking up what was happening around me, like, osmosis or whatever they call it, or absorbing stuff like I was a receiver. And I feel like I was receiving this information, and all I was doing was like transcribing information I was receiving that was going on during that time period, which was like probably from 66, 67, 68 time period. And so that's what it was to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't possibly, live there, but, people were constantly projecting that I could still be there.
Sure.
Nobody was.
Yeah.
Because that was collective. The whole thing about that album was that I was picking up on a collective.
Yeah.
And I was just processing this collective thing that was going on. And it was all about like boundaries, like breaking boundaries or taboo subjects, so let's redress, and so the stuff that, I was listening to like Lenny Bruce all the time, constant, like Lenny Bruce was a backdrop to all that was going on at that time. And so it was all about, let's break barriers and, write about taboo subjects. And that's basically that was it.
Sure. But that single-mindedness obviously propelled you because you're surrounded by people who want you to repeat things.
Yeah.
And you don't want to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, plus it was about that time period.
Yeah.
That was the whole thing.
Yeah.
It was like, this is about a specific time. Yeah. Yeah.
When you're preparing for a tour or for gigs, are there ever songs from your past that you rediscover that you haven't played for a while or you haven't listened to for a while?
Yeah, but there's so many now. It's really difficult because there's so many.
Yeah,
it's mind-boggling. I can't really keep up with it. It's difficult. Difficult.
Are there songs that you don't like playing anymore?
Well, the obvious one is Brown Eyed Girl because it's basically a teenage song written by a 20-year-old.
Yeah.
He was just coming out of being a teenager. So, but silly. But there's a lot of stuff, that you see I've done then. For instance, like albums that came out way back where, these songs were done hundreds of times on gigs over years. So like Moondance and next album, the album after that, those songs were done ad nauseum over a period, years and years and years. I don't want to keep repeating myself. And it's always about forward motion.
Yeah.
So, some of them I can do if I may rearrange them, find a different arrangement. It's just they were done then. Basically, we burnt it out then.
Sure.
With that band that I had then, we were playing stuff from Astral Weeks, Moondance, and the album after that, and we were just burning it out. It was a great band, and we'd gone for it all the, let's go for it. So that's basically what it was.
Yeah.
And then I was kind of always like taking note of people like Ray Charles and Mose Allison, where, they were always like moving forward. Like Mose Allison's songwriting it just kept getting better and better and better and better. But you're going to hear it on the radio.
For sure.
But so they were always inspiring. And Ray Charles was always like moving forward. So that was kind of what my role model was that. That was my role model.
You must have been asked this question before. I've never read your response to it. and this is a kind of selfish question, I suppose. What did you first feel when you heard Patti Smith do Gloria?
I can't remember, but I thought it was great. Anybody covering it, I thought it was, I thought it was good, really good. Yeah.
Do you like people covering your work?
Yeah.
Apart from the financial aspect.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't have made much financially out of that anyway, because that's
Sure.
the old stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, and the Doors did a great version. I mean, actually, Jimi Hendrix did a great version too. But his version didn't come out when he recorded it because I actually met him in New York, and he told me that he'd recorded it, but it didn't come out then. And basically, at that point, I couldn't get arrested, so it came out much later. Yeah.
How was Hendrix? What was it like meeting him?
That was great. I'd met him. I actually used to finish. I used to play the scene when Astral Weeks came out. I was playing the scene.
Yeah.
With Steve Paul, a club in New York, and Hendrix used to come in later on to rehearse because he was putting another band together with a couple of the other guys, Buddy Miles and another bass player. And so he'd come in about 1 a.m. So I used to talk to him then. When we came off stage, he came in to hang out. And so I had quite a few conversations with him then.
Cool guy?
Yeah, definitely.
Good. Critics, the public, everyone in this room, we've all got our favorite Van Morrison songs. What are your favorite Van Morrison songs? Come on, indulge me.
I don't really have a favorite. No. I don't have a fist. Too many. There's so many. So many now. I mean, I'd say, but probably Into the Mystic. If I had to pick one, I would pick that one.
Is there material that you've released that you don't think has earned the respect that it deserves?
I don't know. How do you mean? And
things that haven't been reviewed well, that you think are very, very special, or people misunderstand?
Nothing I recall. I mean, all that stuff hasn't been great though, in my terms. A lot of it, I think I could have done that better.
Like what?
Well, just stuff I recorded during like the early 90s or something. When I just thought I could have, done it a lot better. But if I had been thinking about it, but it's just, I always think that anyway. I always think if I hear things, I always think I could have a better arrangement or approach. But it's a perfectionist thing.
For sure. Is it possible for you to identify your proudest moment?
Well, yeah, that's like getting the Songwriters Hall of Fame award from Ray Charles. And knowing John Lee Hooker, knowing him, hanging out with him, getting to know him, recording with him, produced an album, got a Grammy for that, producing his album. This kind of nomination at Queen's, that's something. Getting two doctorates, one from Queen's, one from the other university, Ulster University. Too Late to Stop Now. That's that album. Yeah, I think that was peak experience.
Right.
That album. It's probably more, but I can't.
There's lots more. I've just got a few questions left. You've left an enormous legacy. What does legacy mean to you?
I don't really think about it. It's like when people used to come up with this, I just couldn't relate to it at all. When you're always like forward moving, this legacy thing doesn't really work. Mm-hmm. It doesn't work.
For sure.
I mean, you try to make it work because it's part of the status quo, but it doesn't really work for me. It's like a bit like brand doesn't work.
Yeah.
A brand that doesn't work, or a celebrity doesn't work.
Yeah.
When we didn't have celebrities back in the day, it didn't exist. So, yeah, that doesn't really mean that much. I wish it did mean more. But when you're in present time,
yeah,
it doesn't really work.
Well, it means a lot to other people. This very practical question. You've been in the game now for 60 years, right?
Yeah.
Unlike almost all of your contemporaries, you can still sing. You've still got the voice. To my eyes, you go and listen to you, like in your skiffle gig, the last one I saw, your voice sounds to me as good as it probably did in 1964 when I was too young to go and see you.
Right.
How do you protect your voice? Do you do anything to it, or you don't? I mean, how does that work?
Well, don't overuse it in talking a lot.
He said pointedly.
Yeah. But stop smoking. I don't smoke anymore. And that's probably a big part of it. And I just don't do a lot of things that are destructive to it, but I just don't. I don't know. It's just I'm just lucky. I'm just lucky, I suppose. I don't burn it out. If I was doing a lot of gigs in the tour format that people used to do, like tour, it would probably be my voice would burn out.
Sure.
But the way I'm doing it incrementally,
yeah,
I think that helps.
As an artist, you are incredibly single-minded, and you quite rightly have earned the right a long time ago to do precisely what you want to do. Mm-hmm. Do you ever think of your fans when you make a record, or the people who adore you, the people who love you and love your work? Do you ever have them in mind when you're creating something, or do you not think about them at all? How does that work?
Well, that doesn't really work, because that's like it's like the chicken and egg. That doesn't really work, because it's if people like it, then they like it, and if they don't, they don't. I mean, it's as simple as that. It's like any creative thing. I suppose because I'm not coming from that place.
Yeah,
it's whatever comes up that I'm receiving. If I'm receiving, like, this could be a song, or this idea could be a song, or it's. I think that's more if you're looking at the commercial aspect of it. I don't know. It's a tricky question. I don't.
You bring so much joy to people. How do you gauge that joy? Is it by audience applause? Is it by the live experience? How do you get that?
Well, you don't experience it. Like, I don't experience it like that. I experience like connection. I mean,
right.
It wouldn't be joy, or it wouldn't be that. It would be connection.
Yeah.
And the connection with myself first, and then the musicians, and then the audience. So it's a three-way connection.
Sure.
It's when you're connecting, you just know that you're there. So that's where it's kind of like a communion. Somebody used to come to my gigs that I knew, said that it's a communion.
Right.
So I think that's what it is, some sort of communion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Finally, you still work incredibly hard, constantly recording and gigging. How have your motivations changed?
Well, I mean, I don't think it's motivation. I think it's just, I don't know anything else. You know what I mean? I don't have any other job. If I had another job, I would, I wouldn't be doing this as much, because it's hard. Not the work part. The work part's not hard. It's just the fame aspect of it is very difficult.
For sure.
Especially when you're an introvert like me. So.
Well, Van, please don't get another job. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks,
Thank you very much indeed.